Hello again, and welcome to another tutorial in camera and lens repair. And this time I will try to show you how I can fix the stiff focus ring in my old Nikkor Pre-Ai 50mm 1.2. And yes, as I said, it's not that hard. We just need some tools for for actually fixing this lens, which is this subject here, which seems to be, well, you can turn the focus ring, but it seems to be a little, wobbling. It's not feel smooth and as it should. So how to do that actually? Well, as I said, it's not that hard, but well, there could be some issues. Well, we need some tools, and first we need a rubber stopper. And in this video I will try to use some alternative tools, kind of. And a rubber stopper you can get in the shops who sell things for making home brewery by wine and beers and so. And it's really good sticky, and I have just cut out to the shape of, almost the lens, and the other end just not really nice, but it works really good. This one is 55mm and in one end, and the other is of course 47. Really good. And we need some other small tools. 1.2mm flathead screwdriver. This is a brand called Vera, German brand, which I like. Some of the screwdrivers are really good. And we need a crosshead screwdriver, which is a 2.5mm JIS, as we work with Japanese lenses and things. You need a JIS, stands for Japan Industry Standard. And a dentist tool which I like to use, especially is as a rounded shape, kind of a small spade, which is really good. We need a knife, which can be very easy, really good to use. And we need some nail polish remover with acetone and a cotton bud. And of course we need to lube the lens with something. And I like the grade 10 from Japan Hobby Tool. No, I'm not sponsored by any of those things I show you here. Not at all. But I just buy the things myself, and so it is. But it's the lightest of those grease, which is a really soft grease, buttery, more than buttery. Two brushes, one for cleaning with lighter fluid, and the other one for relube. Just some makeup brushes from the local store somewhere. A caliper, adjustable caliper, is really good to measure before we take things apart. It's necessary to measure how long is part of the lens, the helicoid, so you are sure when you put it back in again. Now, a special tool, which is, some kind of alternative rubber tool, but it's because this lens is different from many of the other older lenses. It has a ring. It will say the very front here, not this ring, but the next one. You can see, maybe see there is a next ring here. It will say this ring here. and it's put in by using a kind of a rubber tool, and it can sit pretty tight. So we used to have, we have to use a kind of some sticky rubber. So I went to the hardware store and buy some plumbing stuff. It could be some of those. This is another one which is 60 millimeter in diameter, and this one is, well, it's actually the same diameter outside here, but the inside here is around 55 or something. But I need to simply have something to, when I put it on here and press it on the ring here, I need to have something, well, stable. So I simply cut a piece of plywood with a circle saw on my drill, and simply shape it to it fits really good, because then I have a good grip on this very soft ring, and then I can put it on here. And of course I also cut special the edge here has to have a shape like this in here all the way around. And I also cut some of the parts, some of the rubber inside here to fit over the front of the lens. And then it works really good. I have tried. So let's just clear off the table and head on to the what's actually we are planning to do. Let's just zoom in a little. So here we are. Now, to get this front ring off, I need some nail polish remover, and we actually do some just a little, and simply add something nail polish remover on the edge of where you can see the two, where the ring hit the focus ring. And simply because there can sit some kind of thread lock or something, the acetone will not at all hurt the, damage the coating, the painting, which is really, really strong. So now it should be possible to simply put this kind of a special tool on, and let's see if it works. Yeah. And you can see it comes off very easy. You can see there is not so much to actually put the ring here on, but since it works really good because of the very sticky plumbing rubber gaskets, kind of, so it works really good. Now then we are into the lens, and we need to take off the nameplate before we take off the front ring here that actually hold the things in place, the lens assembly. So by using a rubber stopper, which is also very sticky rubber, we simply put it on here and then have a good grip and simply unscrew it counterclockwise. So, and here is the ring. Well, maybe we do not need to unscrew the nameplate, but I just do it because then we can actually see what's going on. Now, next thing is, with my 1.2mm flathead screwdriver, there is a tiny, really a tiny set screw in here. So fully unscrew it because if it disappears, you do not really have any. So it's really there. Put it somewhere you can find it. I put it in the between the nameplate because then I can find it again easily. If your screwdriver is not, that magnetic, one can actually use a kind of a clips, just a brand, to actually get the screwdriver magnetized. So by doing this some 2, 3, 4, 5 times, well, your screwdriver is actually very magnetic. So next thing is to actually, not yet, I think we'll take off everything is ready to take off the front here, the front ring and the lens assembly. But I will also like to unscrew the lens mount, which sits by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws. And for that I will use my JIS 2.5mm screwdriver, crosshead. And it's just to put on, but maybe in your lens it could be that the screws are maybe a little tight by old thread lock. So one can just add a few drops of nail polish remover on each screw, on each screw head, to simply soften the thread lock. If not, if you do not soften the thread lock and the screws sit really tight, it could damage the screws itself. So, and simply unscrew them all. And okay, it doesn't seem that it's magnetic. So one just need a tweezer to get rid of them, or you could just move your screwdriver just like this. Okay, doesn't sit. Okay, and we just try it again. If we just move it so, and then it sits on the screwdriver. The screws are not magnetic, so and the last screw. Now we set the lens to something 16, kind of there, so the aperture is fully closed. It works really good, but to take off the mount, it's we can just pop it off. Just draw it out and do it like this. Sometimes it's easier to just press on the pin here that is via the fork connected to the aperture in here. The pin in here. And you can see the aperture is moving, but it will not go back. How about that? Well, you see the fork, this fork here is actually connected to the aperture pin here. So by moving it, it will move. So now, be careful not to put the lens on the table, because the very back of the lens is just out of the edge of the retaining ring. So take care of that. So now we can also take off the aperture ring itself. And now we can just unscrew the front ring here. So set the lens to 0.45 and you're ready to unscrew it counterclockwise. because then unscrew it, you see this, the tiny hole here. In this case the thread in here is not really good, but so take care of the screw, the really tiny screw that is here. Now there is a guide pin here. It's not a screw, it's a guide pin who will actually made it in that way, so you just put the lens assembly in and it will fit correct. So do not do any adjustment here. But now we can simply just pop the lens assembly in my hand by simply press it out, as you can see here. So, and out it comes, and there we have it. Just a quick note about the lens assembly. I set a mark here where the aperture is fully closed. It will help me when I put the lens assembly in again into the focusing housing. So by setting here and the other pin just as long over this way as it can. So this one all the way over here. Now put it aside because we do not need that. Next thing is we need to take off the rubber. I mean, not really. It's not really necessary to take off the rubber because there's nothing under it that we need. But we'll take off the aluminium ring here, and yeah, we can just do something which is really important. Where's my tiny knife? Before taking out the focus ring itself, set it to something infinity, and there it is, in line with the index mark here. And then set a mark down here in line with the inner focusing ring. You can see there are two marks here. There is one mark here on the focusing ring itself, and there is a mark on the inner, it will say the middle helicoid ring. And then I can just unscrew the 3 screws around here, there, there, and there. Nothing really will happen. And we are still in control what we actually are doing. And since it's not magnetic, I will just do it again, because then it will be magnetic and it should be easy to grip the screw. Now the next thing is the next screw, and then it goes really off very easy. So now one can actually take off the focusing ring by wiggle it a little. It can sit a little tight. There isn't any screws left in here, but this one sits really tight. So it comes off, and here it is. See, this is the focusing ring, and since I have set a mark here, I can always put this back on where it should be. That's important. Before we continue, there is one thing that is really important when working with those manual lenses, and it is how long is the distance from the very front here to the back, and on the front of the focusing ring here it will say this ring to the very back. That's important, and since I've been into the lens before, I write some notes. It will say the inner helicoid, which will be this one here, it has to measure from this front to the very back, and there should be something like 33 point something, like 02 or so. So if I measure it, and remember it's at infinity, so the mark I said before is as long over the helicoid can come. It will say there is a stop here, so it cannot go any further. So we just measure how long it should be, and it should be something there, as something like that. It doesn't really matter if it's 0.1 millimeter or 0.2 millimeter, doesn't really matter. The next thing is the middle, which will say this ring here to the very back. It should be something 29.82 at infinity. It will say the ring has to stay all the way over to infinity as a stop here. It's the same as the first measure, but this time I will just try to measure from there to the very back, and it says something like there, and it says 29.82, and mine says, well, something 82, 81 or something, which is correct. So when I'm done with the lens and put all things back in, it should have the same measure. So now we can just continue by taking the focusing helicoid apart. This tiny spring, which is the click for the aperture ring, you see the clicks here, and this one is actually should face like this. So when the aperture ring comes off, it will be something like that here, and where the clicks come into the small notches here. Now before taking that apart, it's also very good to do some scratch, not measure, but do some scratch here on the back of it. It will say something here, so you know, okay, it should sit that way and not the other. It's important because when you put it back in, when you put it in the wrong way, well, you do have a wrong working aperture ring. So now let's get that off, and it will be with a 2mm flathead screwdriver, which is not it's not something special, just an old screwdriver, and the screws are tiny, so keep that in mind. And here we are. So it is. And now we need to take off the little screw, which is the connection for the aperture ring here. And also when you put it back in, it should be over here. Therefore I set a mark here. So out with that screw. Nothing really special. Well, the screw is special, so and now we're ready to actually take off the shiny ring here and the depth of field ring here, and it's held by 3 screws, one there, there, and there. And now here we can actually take off the ring. It can be a little tight, but it isn't in my lens here. And you see this ring here, the black ring here, can sit by itself, or it can sit glued into the shiny metal ring here. It is the case here, but it could be different in your lens. Now, next thing is the guide pin. I mean the helicoid key. Someone call it a helicoid key, but I don't know. Well, I would say it's a guide pin, but doesn't matter. Before we take anything apart here, we need to set a mark where the lens is as shortest as possible. It will say at infinity. So it cannot go any further over here, and therefore I will set a mark here, which I already have. So the 2 lines, the 2 scratch, are in line with the guide pin here. So therefore I know exactly where it should be when I'm done. And that's one thing we need to take more apart, because when working with this lens I will take the guide pin out, then move the inner at the same time I hold on the back here and on the focusing ring. Then I can turn this. So but I need to take out this stop for the the focusing ring cannot go any further at infinity, and on the other end it cannot go further at near end. It will say the focusing helicoid will be as at near end, and it cannot go any further here. Now then I have space enough to actually take out the 2 screws there and there, and I also here set I set a mark here, an arrow which is pointing forward, and I also set a mark over here and here and somewhere here, because now I'm actually safe how things should sit. So out with those tiny countersunk screws. Put it somewhere where you can find it. And this little piece of metal will also come out. Just need to take out screws, and then this plate can come out. it looks like this. And from now on, we have to go back to infinity. So therefore I have my arrow here and my 2 marks, because the lens can actually continue with focusing over infinity. But what I need is to actually unscrew the key, the guide pin in here, which sits by 2 screws, one there and one there. And you may please think, okay, what about in the middle? But this one, do not touch it. Do not. It's an adjustment how tight the gap, how tight the guide pin will move. When you turn the, it could be, if you want it more tight, you could just turn it, but since it doesn't, there isn't any issue there, don't do it. So by unscrew the 2 screws in here, by holding everything is in place, so it should be possible to take out. So one here, and the other one. Okay, where should it be? There. And out it comes. Oh, where did that screw went? Oh, it's still here. Okay, now I can actually just unscrew the inner helicoid, and I will do so. So you see, one can actually lift this up a little, so it sticks out there, and because of the old grease it will just stay there. Now my reference point in the my reference point from starting, before I take out the helicoid here, is this mark here and the guide pin area. So when turn it, I have to actually turn the inner helicoid almost, I have to turn it almost 1 turn counterclockwise until it comes off. It will say my reference point is here, and when I turn it counterclockwise, I should end up something like over here. Of course, I've been into the lens to just make my notes before I took it apart. So you can read how I done before you take it apart. So I will turn it. I start here, and I'll just go all the way over to my off point, which will be here, and when it comes off, so sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I remember. It has to go backward, as we say. So maybe I should take off the outer helicoid first. Yeah, that's what I've done. Yeah, okay. I will turn it. Sorry. Clockwise. 1¼ turn till off. That's what I write down. Okay, yeah, sorry for that. Yeah, sometimes things go different. See, the inner, it will say the focusing ring. I have to turn it 1¼ turn counterclockwise if we look from the front. So if I turn it, my starting point is with the arrow. So I turn it and then one turn, and that's why I set a mark over here. So when it comes off, it will say there. You see, the point is there, and I can just put it in again. It has to say click, kind of. Sometimes it can be a little difficult. And of course it's much easier when there are new loop on the focus helicoid. And then we are back here. So all for that. So it is. And then of course it should be the inner helicoid should come off counterclockwise. It will say, of course, looking from the back, it has to come off, and I also set a mark here. That's what I just forgot some days ago. See, I hope you can see. I know it's difficult to see. There's a mark here, and my reference mark is here. So if I turn this almost one turn counterclockwise, seeing from the back here, I will end it up by a mark over here, which is pretty close to the infinity mark. So I will come all the way over here. You see the two holes for the stop pin, and when it comes off there. So now things are separate and ready for cleaning. Just a quick note about the pin which still sits here. It has to sit like this, not the opposite, something like that. It should sit in this way when it's correct. Put it in. So, and just a quick note about the aperture ring here, which is also pretty tight. So I would like to get rid of that. I mean, not rid of the aperture ring, but the spring in here, which I would like to take out. And maybe we can do it by a small screwdriver and simply unhook it. Can be a little difficult maybe. I haven't had that out. Well, we will just do the easy way and use a dentist tool, so it could be probably be easier. Or we could just push it over so it sits in the middle here, and by using a screwdriver and simply unclick it like this. So now this ring comes out. Oh, it falls out. Well, it goes really good. And I will get it after. So take out the inner aperture ring with a fork and all those. So the next thing is actually I will go out and do some cleaning of the helicoids. So see you sooner. And now the helicoids are as clean as as possible, even if they are old. They're just clean from old lube, which was really dry and not really good. So the only thing I need to do is actually lube the helicoids with my fine brush here and some grade 10 grease from Japan Hobby Tool. And there shouldn't be used a lot. I mean, a little will do a lot actually. So I can just take from the lid. I know it's difficult to see because it's so white, so it's difficult to see how much is in the lid here. Yeah, sorry for that. So a little amount on the brush, and I will just clean the the inner helicoid here. And of course there shouldn't be used a lot in this grease. Someone would say there is way too much or way too less. Well, that there at least has to be something. And now I will simply just put this into the helicoid here. I have my arrow between the two screw holes here, and this is my arrow when this helicoid come off. So I will just put it in and try to catch the thread, which sometimes can be a little difficult, and give it some movement. Oh, it feels much better than the other one. Now I'll get it off. There. And I think it should be okay. I mean, it looks fine. So I can just add this on the helicoid again, try to catch it. Sometimes it says click when it goes in on the thread. So one have to wiggle a little to actually catch the thread, and it can sometimes be a little challenge to get the correct. So then turn it until all the way in. Where is my reference mark? It's not this one. Just do it again. There it is, and then turn until here, which is my reference mark here, and this is the index hole, the notch for the lens assembly. Now I can simply add the inner helicoid, but before doing so I need to put in this ring for the aperture, and it seems actually very good. No need for doing anything, and simply drop it in. maybe I could add a little, just a tiny amount of lube. Doesn't have to be much. Maybe it would help a little. I think it was just a bit tight. So, yeah, it seems to be better. Yeah. Now the very long spring here will come in and try to catch the notch where the spring is sitting in, and then simply turn it all the way in. By moving using the end of a tweezer, and then it clicks in place. Nice and smooth, very much better than it was. And then I can just add the loop here on the outer. So and I do not really put much on, because the movement of the focusing ring will do the rest. So back again, I have my reference mark here, and I have the small arrow which is close to the infinity here, a quarter or so. So then I can just try to catch the thread with the two arrows, and they have to click in place, and hopefully there. Wow. Turn it until safe home. Wow. Really runs smooth. So it is. Now I for now need to put in the helicoid key, which you see here. And just do so, out with the inner, so I can then put in the helicoid key by doing, hopefully. Okay, it needs to come out further, as long as it can. Maybe you need to move the inner and the outer just a little, so there is space enough in here to put the key in. You see, sometimes it's really good to have a backup, especially a video backup, because I was wrong in my putting in the key. So I should just review the first part of my video. Yeah, there was something wrong, but I couldn't. Yeah, you see, sometimes things happen. So I will just take out the key, the helicoid key here, and put it in correct way, not incorrect. So out with that. And it should sit like this. when we put it in again. Okay, little fellow. So therefore, since I do not have a repair manual for this lens, sometimes things go, I mean, not wrong, but not the correct way. So therefore it's good to have a video backup of how things should sit when you do the repair. So now it sits correct, as you might see, and in with the two small screws. Just put the key in correct way, so it should sit there. And the other one. And now we are back on track. So this is the way it should look. So the flat part of the helicoid key should face towards the front. And there is a, as you can see here, a little platform or something, piece of metal. It should fade, of course, backward. Now, since everything should be okay, let's see if I can put in the stop plate. It will be this one, and I just have to set it on. Since there is nothing that will prevent the lens from falling apart, yeah, there might be. It's not a problem. Well, we can just go all the way out, but no longer than the stop here, and then load my screwdriver with one screw, put in the plate, and since I have an arrow on this, I know it's difficult to see, there is a kind of an arrow here, so I know where it should sit. And it would sit wrong if you put it in that way. So therefore it's important to make some kind of a mark. So there, and hopefully there it is. So if one thinks they can remember where their parts should sit, well, if you do not have a repair manual, well, you're lost if you do not set marks somewhere. Wow, it's much better. So we can just tighten the stop key here. No need for over tighten it. And then it will just end there. So my reference mark here, infinity, will just go there. So I can just measure how long should it be from here to there and from there to there. Well, since I measured it in the beginning, infinity, which is set on now, it should be something like from the inner helicoid here to the very back. There should be something like if I measure correct, should be there. And from the helicoid, I mean the middle helicoid, which should be something like 29.82, and it should be something like, oh, measure there, it should be something like there or so. So now everything is correct. That's really good. And then I can just continue with all the parts in here, and it runs so smooth. If it doesn't run so smooth again, one can actually just tighten this a little, not much, and I can just add a little of lube, just a tiny amount on the side here. Doesn't have to be much. And then give it some movement. So it is. And now, finally, we will just go all the way back. The shiny ring with the index, the depth of field index thing goes on, and find the holes here. So I was on there, not the correct, no. It's up here at the next level. Okay, things goes really good today. But finally we are there. Too many holes. And then do this. The rest is here on the back of the lens. So here we are. Now I can put in the tiny spring here for the aperture ring, and since I set a mark here in the beginning, I know where it should sit, which will be here. And a screw on my screwdriver. They can really be tricky to put in because they are so short, those screws. And there. And here we are. So there it is, fine. And now that little special screw for the aperture connection pin, the aperture ring connection pin. I don't know the name, but it should be there, and we just have to catch the hole in here. So one have to move the ring here. We can just move it up to here where I set an arrow in the beginning, so it should be easier to put in and catch the thread. Don't over tighten this one. And now we're here. Yeah, so I can put on the focusing ring itself. And since I have a mark here close to infinity, and it's the same mark I have here, not the arrow but here, I can just put it on, and since it's a little tight, one have to maybe wiggle it a little when putting it on, so. And maybe move it all the way up to the stop, and then turn the focusing ring a little so it sits in line with the two marks. Wow, it runs so good. And then I can add the 3 screws that hold the focusing ring on. And now we are back on track. So see, it runs really good. It doesn't have the funny movement in the beginning. So now it can, yeah, I can put on the aperture ring. There is a notch somewhere. It will be here. Actually, the guide pin, I mean the fork is here, and the small notch is here, which should engage with the pin here. So we can just face it like this. So you see how it will go, and then I can just put it on, then catch the pin and the notch, and they should be all fine when you move some, give it some movement. Since I here already in here, I could also give it some loop on the notches here. Well, maybe I should have cleaned it before, but doesn't matter in this case. And then on with the lens again. Not the lens, the aperture ring, sorry. It's the heat outside. So, and then everything runs smooth and nice, as it should. Now set the lens to infinity, the aperture ring to 16, and then grab the lens assembly and put this pin all the way over to here, and this pin all the way over to here. And then you have the index pin, the adjustment thingy, that goes into this notch here. So we have to catch this pin with a fork in here, something like that. And somebody have to move it a little, and then everything goes. You see the pin in there, it goes into the fork, and then the guide pin up here has to just slide in and there it is. So now we can actually set the lens to near end and put on the front ring. So when we turn the lens over, it will not fall out. And everything is correct. Then tighten it gently. Set it to infinity again. And then put on the mount itself. Since there is a pin down here, which is the one that moves the aperture assembly, it will say this fork. That will go into this pin. I simply set 2 scratches down here, so I know where this pin should stay, and not all the way over there. It should stay there when aperture is 16. So then it's easy to put this in. Just catch the fork here. You can see the 2 marks down there, and then the fork will put in, and then it's almost there. Just have to wiggle the mount in place, and there it is. So we just need to put in the 5 screws, and everything is almost there. There's no need for over tighten the screws here. Just tighten them gently, as we say. And now the aperture ring works as it should, and the aperture connection pin. So we need to put on the, not yet, yeah, we can put in the nameplate, yeah, that's fine. So on with that, and find the thread. We can use the rubber stopper, and then put it in, and then tighten it gently. Now the last thing, I mean almost last thing, is the tiny screw in here. The tiny set screw that hold the front ring in place. Is really small, so set the lens to near end and find the little hole where it should go in. So catch the thread and gently, really gently tighten the screws. If you tighten it too much, it will just break the one side of the kind of a head. So the only thing we need to do is actually put in the front ring, set it to infinity, it will be easier, and then catch the thread, and my just homemade tool, which is perfect for that, then tighten it, and everything runs so good, just amazing. So now it's actually back on track, and I will use it again. It's so good. So hope you enjoy the content of this old fellow of a lens, and well, there was some small issue during the process which I was not so aware of, but since I have a video backup of this, the first part, the first section of this video, well, everything is correct in place again. So that's good. Bye bye.